Well, what's up, folks? It is Tuesday night here in a cold and dreary Tampa Bay. It is absolutely miserable outside, but it's okay because we're planning to get everybody fired up and warmed up. And let's not forget, just 4 years ago to this day, and if you guys can see it, right, we're celebrating our first Super Bowl championship. So today was the day that I was back home in Philadelphia. We're down the Parkway having tons of fun down there, doing all the things that we love to do in Philly. It was a great day. I'll never forget it, and I hope that we get to see number 2 before my lifetime is over. So tonight, speaking of, some good NFL talk, as we've heard all kinds of stuff going on. Kyler Murray wants out of Arizona. Lovie Smith, the new head coach for your Houston Texans. You got Dennis Green over there from the Saints. He's the new head coach, and he's not anybody new to the head coach, or at least to the coaching staff. He's been around since 2015. So that MLB trying to get their act together in Orlando. And for that, we do have our good friend that we haven't spoken to since he was in Philly, now over at the Lone Star State. David Esser joins us tonight here live. So we plan on having as much fun as we possibly can. Chipper, representing Steel City Renegades, is with us tonight. Dylan and Fuji. So everybody hang on here into the other side as I move things around here a little bit. Again, tons of stuff to talk about. Hopefully the MLB season will kick in. And by the way, there's a little bit of rumor that maybe one James Harden could be coming to a city near you, and that being maybe possibly Philadelphia. So lots to get into. We thank you for tuning in tonight from overseas, from the 28 states here in the U.S., and now including Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. So thank you guys for all tuning in, watching the show tonight. I'm Angel. This is Broad Street South. And probably just a little bit colder than obviously it is down here, but he's never cold, never too old. It is the Godfather, Mike Fuji. Fuji, what's happening tonight?
What is going on? Now, Angel, I'm going to ask you right to the point. Now, Tom Brady, it came out on ESPN today, this morning, that he's talking about possibly maybe making a comeback. Now, is this true? We know your his publicist down there. You got your ear to the street in Tampa. Now, what's the deal?
Well,
Will Tom Brady be back after a 6-day retirement or what?
Well, he did.
I'm putting you on the spot tonight, my friend.
He did say that he was thinking about actually possibly coming back, but again, it all depends on how he feels, how everything goes. So it's not something that's definite and or a guarantee, but obviously as he walked away from the game just a week ago, so it hasn't been that long, it's like, again, you start getting the jitters and everything else, wanting to come back. So I'm pretty sure if he wants to, he'll end up coming back. But the question will be, the more important question, will he be back in Tampa? That's the most important question. And I'll let you know that one a little bit later on, because I got the digs on that one, but it's okay. As of right now, Trask is the one to be in charge, and some other names as well. So, hey, we'll get into it. Don't worry. There'll be a lot of stuff there to talk about. So that's right. I know you're excited about it, but hey, before we bring everybody on, right? 4 years ago, it seems like forever, but just 4 short years ago.
Mr. Kelsey, dressed up in the Mummers outfit. No one likes us. We're from Philly. Flipping Philly. No one likes us. We don't care.
Exactly. But it's okay. Listen, I just hope we get there. A couple more years, maybe it'll happen all over again, but we shall see. But with that being said, of course, we are going to bring on our local Tampa correspondent who's been MIA, but is back with us tonight. It is Dylan Spalding. Dylan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great, guys. I got to get a few things on my chest. I haven't been here in a while. I've been depressed. Listen, I have been in hiding. I have been in hiding because of my Buccaneers losing this year. That is my excuse of why I have been out these last couple of weeks.
Wow, again, that's a long time to get over.
Yes,
I was over the Eagles in a couple days. I mean, you're wiping Brady's tears and all that.
Listen, let me get a few things on my chest. So, listen, guys, it is Super Bowl week. Listen, guys, it is Super Bowl week. I'm very excited about that. Obviously, A lot of things going on with my Buccaneers. Got to say, my boy Cole Anthony, you will win the dunk contest, young fella, in the words of Kenny the Jet Smith. And I think that's it. Oh, and one more thing I do want to say, and on a serious note here, I am obviously, people, if they don't know, I am the broadcaster for the Tampa Bay Titans, which is a team in the basketball league. Please check out the league and our team. We are a great organization, very well-run league as well with the Magley ownership group who runs the entire league. But just want to say my condolences to our GM, and as probably a lot of baseball fans know him as, the MLB outfielder, the great late, unfortunately, Mr. Gerald Williams did pass away today at the age of 55, unfortunately due to cancer. So I do want to say my condolences out to his family, and definitely a very tragic, obviously, loss, not only in the baseball community, but here with the Tampa Bay Titans organization. So,
well, God bless and condolences to the family. It's never easy, no matter how young or old you are. It's never easy to lose a family member, especially with everything that goes on with this world today. So God bless to the family, and hopefully everyone will be okay. As far as bringing on the Atlanta Braves representatives, also representing the Steel City Renegades, it is the one and only Chipper Dundall. Chipper, how are you?
What is up, guys? It's Super Bowl week. Looking forward to a great game this week. So unfortunately, there's nothing much to talk. Not much to talk about as far as baseball goes, because they're still locked out, trying to get their heads together, trying to figure out what the hell to do. And believe me, if there's anybody that knows what's going to go on with TB12, is that man there, Angel Martinez. Him and TB12 talk along the fence line. Yep. Angel is the man in the know.
He's right out back his house, right there in that development.
That's all right. Listen, I tried. It's the only thing I can do is try and bring in the actual good news, unlike the four-letter network that like to blow things out of proportion there. But it's all right. But tonight, we have not spoken to this gentleman since, again, his days in Philly. And I think his camera may have just frozen for a second time. So, nope. No, I see it moving. Okay. So, hailing originally from Philly, but now via the Lone Star State, it is our guest, David Esser. David, how are you?
Fellas, what's going on? It has been a minute. I see some new faces. I see a new setup. It's very exciting to be back on the show tonight.
How you doing, Dave? Welcome back. Appreciate you coming on.
Very much.
Listen, no problem. And thank you for coming on with us again tonight. And so I got to say, before I get into many more segments here tonight, number one is, first of all, how is it living in the Lone Star State after being in the big city of Philadelphia? Is there a delay in audio?
Cut out there for a second. I think you asked, how is it living in Texas compared to the East Coast?
Yeah.
It's way warmer. I'll say that for sure. We got a little bit of ice the last couple of days, but we're back up into the high 60s. So definitely a lot more sunshine, a lot more warm weather, probably similar to what you have over in Tampa. So definitely a fan of that.
Yeah, that's a big one. Fuji, one day he'll understand it, Dave. It's just he doesn't get it right now, but he'll understand one of these days, because there's that warm. Minus now, though, it's been cold down here in Tampa, and it's unseasonably cold for this time of year. So not complaining too much, but we're tired of this icky rain and all this stuff that's going on out here. So hopefully the temperature gets
cold. What is it, like 60 degrees?
No, today we barely broke 50.
So heaven forbid.
Yeah, well, for down here, because you got to remember, you're surrounded by moisture all the time, so it can get cold. Ask Dylan, it can get cold because just the constant moisture that surrounds us all the time. But I will get to the comments. More importantly, before we start the show, this first segment is brought to you by our new strategic partnership with Caesars Entertainment, the Super Draft Pro. Caesars Rewards, and it's also the future of sports fandom. So just to give you a little bit of info here, they have exclusive fantasy games and sports betting experiences on Super Draft, the official fantasy partner of Caesars Entertainment. And basically what you guys can end up doing is you guys can go right on our website, broadstreetsouth.com, click on the very top where it says strategic partnership, and you guys can set up an account where you can play just like they do at FanDuel and over at the other one. But the good thing is for the future, right, for DraftKings, which, again, free plugs for both of them there. But the good thing is, with winning the money there between the Super Draft, you can also apply it towards prizes as well. So if you're not a gambler as far as when it comes to money, you can apply your winnings over to other items as well. So check it out over at superdraftpro.com, which the link is right through the website. So click through our website, our new strategic partnership. So thank you to Caesars Entertainment. Thank you to Dan Worley and Steve for talking to me as far as putting all this stuff together. So we appreciate Caesars Entertainment coming on as a strategic partnership with Broad Street South. So please check it out at broadstreetsouth.com. And with that being said, so Dave, we know that right now there is that lockout with MLB. Apparently they wanted a mediator in between there to, I guess, appear down in Orlando. But unfortunately, the players said they didn't want any kind of mediator, anybody interfering in between, that they actually wanted to have to talk themselves. Has anything else happened, which we know, I believe it's supposed to be either tomorrow or Friday? They're planning on talking all over again.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think heading into the lockout, I was quietly optimistic that this would all get wrapped up, before the start of spring training. I'm getting less optimistic. You're seeing a lot of kind of faithless negotiating, where it's a lot of, one side saying they have a fair deal and they're not budging, the other side saying they have a fair deal and they're not budging. So I don't think they're particularly close based off some of the reports I've seen from Rosenthal and Nightingale and some of the other guys who are more in the loop than myself. They don't seem terribly optimistic. So I definitely think there's a chance of spring training getting pushed back. God forbid they push back opening day. I currently have plans to actually go to Houston for Phillies Astros because they open up down in Houston. So I would appreciate it if they don't push that game back too far. But definitely less optimistic compared to where I was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. And by the way, Joey B, just to let you know, Dave, he has comments that come in here fast and furious. So if one,
we're not laughing at you.
Yeah, Joey B in the house.
Joey B has some great just.
Oh man, kill me.
He's got some good ones. So don't think that anybody's laughing at you because he comes in fast and furious. The only thing that I don't want to see, as you talked about here, to mention as far as the pushback, because we're only a week away, just about, for the season to kick. I know some of the players are in Florida. Some players have gone to Arizona as well to try and do their own little private workouts. But we've seen for the last 2 years, obviously COVID interrupted both seasons. The start of one, obviously later on, then the start stoppage of another one. So I'm hoping, because I personally, along with Dylan, would love to see our Phillies down here in Clearwater to get things underway. But it seems like it's coming down to money and still comes down to money. So how much of a difference, Dave, do you know of from Major League Baseball between the players and these owners? What is the bigger sticking point other than the money that's been put out there on the table?
Well, and that's the super frustrating part. I think some of the key issues, like universal DH, for example, like everyone's on board with that. They both sides want the universal DH. I would
Right. Yep.
slot that into something that's going to happen.
Yep.
There's been conflicting arguments about service time. The MLPA, the Players Association, they want the service time shortened so there's less manipulation so that players can hit free agency younger, which is something that the owners are pushing back on pretty hard again. So outside of the money, I'd say that's the biggest sticking point. I don't think that's a battle the players are going to win this go around. I think some of these lower market franchises, or even the franchises who just don't want to spend money in free agency, their big selling point is having these rookies locked up for years and years and years. So the last thing they want to do is give guys an opportunity to hit free agency in their prime. Because as we've seen, when a player hits free agency around 26, 27, like we're talking $200+ million at a minimum for some of the better players. So that's a sticking point. And I don't think that's something the Players Association is going to win.
I don't think so either. Go ahead,
for me, from what I've been reading and being a baseball fan, the sticking points right now are the arbitration years, the money years that a player can be in the league, and then they hit arbitration, and then the free agency thing. So from a basic fan's point of view, that's basically meaningless. But when it comes to the actual payroll, though, I'm irritated at the fact that it doesn't seem like the Players Association is wanting to go to agree on a salary floor, where teams have to spend a certain amount of money. I'm a huge proponent that teams like the Pirates, like now the Guardians, and other teams like that have teams but are only spending $30, $40, $50 million total on their payroll. even though they have these huge TV contracts, network contracts, and whatever else, but yet they're not willing to spend the money. That's the part that, as a baseball fan, irritates the heck out of me. The arbitration, the free agency thing, that's between the players and all that stuff. But as a baseball fan, the money thing is what really irritates me. That, again, going back to teams like the Pirates and the Guardians that have bring in all this money through TV, media, whatever else, only spend 30, 40, $50 million on a total payroll is just absolute garbage.
Dave, as far as the Phillies, I mean, since the lockout, you don't really hear too much of anything going on. You see them possibly spending some big money on a Chris Bryant or maybe another starter, or definitely somebody in the bullpen?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be shocked if they didn't spend money, just kind of with where the team is at. They need another big bat. Right before the lockout commenced, there was a lot of smoke about Kyle Schwarber. My guess is he's still number one on their priority list. He fills a need out in left field. He's a big left-handed bat, so he complements Bryce Harper a little bit better. He can hit leadoff. He can hit cleanup. So I think he's target number one. If that falls through, turn towards Castellanos, turn towards Chris Bryant. Personally, Chris Bryant's my favorite of the free agent class. And then after that, you start looking at filling out the bullpen a little bit more. They did get Knievel, which helps their closer situation, but they probably need another two arms. They likely need another veteran starter because we don't know what Eflin's health situation is going to look like for opening day, whenever that is. I think the only other thing to potentially consider is if Schwarber signs elsewhere, and if Bryant and Castellanos sign elsewhere, like Carlos Correa is still out there. And I don't know if you guys saw, he just switched agents. He's a Boras guy now, which Philadelphia and Boras, they're on good terms. So I just chucked that out there that they could easily pivot towards a shortstop because there's still a few good ones out there. And shortstop is by no means a position sharpied into the lineup right now.
Can you see the Phillies? I mean, as far as center field, that's another big issue. It seems to be, I mean, as far as going out and trying to get somebody to play center field, especially.
Yeah, I think center field is going to have to be a trade. All the good center fielders in free agency got scooped up pretty quickly. The Mets signed two of them in Canha and Starling Marte. So I think that's going to have to be a trade. Kevin Kiermaier, Manuel Margot, those are the two names I've seen chucked out the most out there in Tampa Bay, and they're pretty good about offloading veterans for prospects if the Phillies want to go in that direction.
Hey, David. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Hey, David, I got a question real quick. So obviously one of the big things I've been listening, and especially today as well, I was listening to a little bit of like a YouTube conversation on Hot Stove, and they were talking about the expanded playoffs. And I think that's going to be one of the key interesting things to watch out throughout this entire CBA agreement is with expanded playoffs. And I'm a big fan of expanded playoffs because if you think about it on the table, only 8 markets are really getting featured right now in the playoffs. If you exclude the, road team in the wild card game, really only 8 markets, possibly up to 10 depending on if the road teams win their playoff games in the wild card actually make it to, the postseason. What do you think how important is that 14 game or 14 team or whatever it may up ending up being? How important is an expanded playoff to baseball when it comes to the markets and really the success of maybe a smaller, lower team market, especially in the game of baseball?
Yeah, I think the expanded playoff format is crucial. I'm not sure why it hasn't been implemented yet. I thought when it appeared during the
Hang on, David may have frozen his feed. So let's wait for him to come back. As soon as you come back, Dylan, make sure you bring up the question again because I know originally when he had. We'll wait for him to kick back on. I know his camera was freezing up originally when he had come on with us, so maybe he'll realize it and kick it off and then come back on. So we'll wait for him to come back on. But in the meantime, obviously, here it comes. So let me make sure I bring him back up here. There you go, Dave.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry about that. Yeah, a little bit of shaky internet connection. Expanded playoff format, Dylan, it's a really good question, and I very much agree with you. I think it's crucial. You saw it during the one shortened season where they did implement the expanded playoff format. You had a team like the Marlins going all in at the deadline where they were actively trying to win baseball games. They were willing to spend money. So I think it'd be great for baseball. I know some fans don't like the idea of the playoffs being oversaturated with bad teams, but if it convinces teams like the Pirates, for example, like the Orioles, like the Marlins, to go spend money at the deadline, to try to acquire good players, to spend in free agency off the chance of sneaking into the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. I think it would solve a lot of issues without having to implement a cap floor.
I want to bring up this question here by Sean, where Sean says, Dave, Atlanta Braves manager Brian Snitker is a hopeful free agent. Brian Snitker is hopeful free agent. First baseman Freddie Freeman will return to the club in 2022, but acknowledges his departure is a possibility. He told the Athletics' Jeff Schultz, "You think he goes over to the Yankees?" That's what he's hearing, or at least that's what I'm assuming not what he wants, but that's what he's hearing.
Yeah, Sean, that's a really good question. If I had to bet money, I'd lean towards him staying in Atlanta. He's been there his whole career. He just won a World Series. He's one of the best first basemen in baseball. His family's all there. It makes sense for him to stay in Atlanta. With that said, Atlanta is not known for spending money. In fact, their offers that they've sent Freddie's way have been on the smaller side before the lockout commenced. So if he pulls out of the lockout and he's looking to cash out, coming off the best season of his career, winning a World Series, arguably the best first baseman in baseball, and the Yankees roll up with something crazy, I don't know how you can say no to that. That's your one chance to cash out. So I think it ultimately comes down to his family, what he prioritizes, if he cares more about staying in Atlanta or if he cares more about chasing the big payday. But yeah, I mean, if New York can swoop in, it fills their biggest need and then some. So I would definitely keep an eye on the Freddie to New York connection. If I were Atlanta, I would have rushed to get this deal done right after the World Series. I think they made a mistake letting it go this long.
And see, that's what's driving me bonkers right now is the fact they didn't get the deal done before the lockout. Obviously, being the Braves fan that I am, I'm hoping that Freddie stays with Atlanta. Hopefully that Chipper taught him the way to be loyal to a team and not necessarily go for the cash. However, when the Yankees come calling, they offer you the kind of cash that they can offer you. Well, you do have to look at it. So I'm really hoping that Freddie learns from Chipper and decides to be loyal to a team and see what the team has done for him all these years, and not necessarily leave money on the table, but at least give some sort of discount and work something out.
The only ones that seem to be doing anything, Fuji, I'll give you here in a second, but you look at Dave, for example, the New York Mets seem to be doing what the Phillies said they were going to do a couple of years ago, was to spend stupid money to win. And that's what it seems like the Mets were doing prior to this lockout. How much more are the Mets willing to spend and willing to do to become the actual New York Yankees, I guess would be west of the city? So to me, it seems like they're making this hard push that they want to win a World Series, but they want to win it now. Are the Mets done when they come back after a lockout?
Absolutely.
So are they done, or what do you believe is what the Mets are going to do next?
I think they're going to spend more. They've shown no restraint up to this point. They signed Scherzer to a record-breaking contract. They threw a ton of money at Marte and Canha. They brought in some other pieces as well. I don't think they're done at all because they still need pitching. Getting Scherzer was great, but they lost Stroman and Syndergaard in the same offseason, and the rotation was already kind of an issue. So I think they're still gonna spend, which sounds crazy considering how high their payroll is. But you're right. Not only are they competing with New York, but they're competing with the Braves. I mean, the Braves just won a World Series, and the Mets want to be on top of that division. They want to be on that top of the division for several years. So they're feeling pressure from all different directions, from being in the same town as the Yankees, from the Braves being the World Series champions, from the Phillies having a little bit more star power in a Bryce Harper, in a Zach Wheeler. So I definitely think they're going to continue to spend once the lockout is complete.
Hey, Dave, quick question. I'm assuming that the Mets still have Javier Baez and Francisco Lindor, and then they just signed Max Scherzer to a huge contract. How much more salary room do the Mets have?
Yeah, so Baez, he went to Detroit, so they did lose Baez, and
Okay.
that's kind of where they were able to justify a little bit of the spending.
Okay.
But with that said, I mean, they crushed the luxury tax. They are way over. So you're correct in the sense that they have no money left. But as long as Steve Cohen wants to spend, I mean, there's no hard cap in baseball. He can just keep on going. So if he's serious about adding more talent, in theory, his money is limitless. We're talking billions, so he could certainly just keep on adding talent as long as he wants.
Right.
Davis, just to shift gears a little bit, we are probably less than 48 hours away from the NBA trade deadline. Now, do you see, I know you used to cover the Sixers when you lived here in Philly, but actually see the Sixers going out, making a deal? I mean, I know the Harden rumors are flying around. You know, do you see like the Sixers helping Joel Embiid, down the stretch here, as the Sixers are second or third in the Eastern Conference as of right now, playing some great basketball?
Yeah, Mike, it's a good point. I think it's Harden or bust, and I think it's been Harden or bust since Daryl Morey first arrived in Philadelphia. I mean, we've seen a couple other kind of Ben Simmons-esque packages go out the door. CJ McCollum was traded. Tyrese Halliburton was traded. The Pacers offloaded some pieces. So you look around the league, it's like, who can they realistically trade for outside of James Harden? And we know Daryl Morey is obsessed with bringing Harden. In a perfect world, they get it done before Thursday, and Harden is on the basketball team moving forward. Great. They can push for a championship this year. If it doesn't happen, I don't think Morey's going to burn the asset of Ben Simmons. I think he's going to wait till the offseason and look to do a sign and trade for Harden. So it's a tough situation because obviously you want to see the Sixers capitalize on Embiid's greatness right now. Like, he is ready to win a championship. But I think in the same breath, Daryl Morey is going to wait till the very last moment to try to swing this Harden deal. And if that's in the offseason, so be it.
No, the irony, and I had to mute the mic there for a second because, again, Joey B is a killer. Yeah. So, Dave, we just – this comment here that he just brought up, we were just talking about it before you came on. And Fuji was just making fun of himself, saying he was going to be the new one doing the Caesars commercial. So, Joey B, good Lord. Yeah. The guy's just on fire. He is just on fire. Rick says, I'm going to need the NFL to extend the season to 12 months. Yeah. That's why the USFL is coming around. And what's going on, Rick? Thanks for tuning in.
Rick. Thanks for
over there from Southwest Airlines. We appreciate everything you do and flying to friendly skies.
Fuji in a toga is a visual that I can't just get out of my head right now.
Yeah, that would
like
be
Animal House,
right?
That's all.
That would just be horrendous. But switching kind of gears here, though, Dave. And by the way, this next segment, as long as I bring this back up here, if you're looking, Fuji, come next season to travel out there to Texans land, who are you going to go with?
Who else but Phillies Sports Trips?
That's right. If you guys go to phillysportstrips.com, take a look at the next trips that are coming up here. They're having actually a July golf outing for the first time ever with Philly Sports Trips. So check out phillysportstrips.com. They should be, hopefully, if everything goes well here, back down here in March for an Orlando Clearwater weekend. So let's hope the MLB season gets kicked off as sooner better than later, so we can see everybody who came down for the Eagles pep rally down here in Tampa, which is a takeover. Didn't work out the way exactly we wanted to, but we hope that everybody goes through down there at phillysportstrips.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at phillysportstrips. So with that being said, we know that and as I messaged you earlier today, we heard that Levi Smith was picked up by the Houston Texans, which he was already on the team last season. Now he gets picked up. Some of the people have stated during the question and answer portion of it was the reason why, if the Houston Texans did do so, did they do it because of Brian Flores? Apparently the Houston Texans organization said because he was the best available. Obviously, they're not going to say because of Brian Flores because that's a touchy kind of subject right now. But Levi Smith, Dave, and I know, again, you're probably listening to it just as much as I was today. does it not seem that that's going to be a one and done with the Texans? Because I just don't believe that Lovie Smith is a future. And the other part of it too is it was kind of odd how he was saying that you already saw the rebuilding last year, almost like he was the head coach last season, which obviously wasn't the case. It was Nick, but it was just weird the way the whole press conference went. But I believe it's only a one and done deal with Lovie Smith.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a situation where they kind of botched the hiring process, where they went through the candidates and they couldn't land whoever it was they wanted. I don't know. It could have been Doug Peterson. It could have been one of the bright offensive minds who took over as head coach this year. I know they were super interested in Josh McCown, which the league was kind of frowning upon because he has yet to coach in the NFL at all. He's just been a quarterback. He's granted, he's been a good backup. He's sounds like he's been a good mentor, but to promote him to head coach is a little bit bold. So I think this was a situation where they went through the hiring process. They didn't know who to hire. Then the Flores lawsuit appears. So now they don't want to touch that situation. So They kind of had their hands up and they said, screw it. Let's bring in Lovie. He's already here. Everybody likes him. He's been a head coach before. We're going to tank again next season, and we'll try this whole head coach hiring thing again next offseason.
And I think the other kind of irony to that as well is that I remember when Lovie Smith was in Chicago, and I guess maybe because it's been a while since I heard him talk, but I don't remember him having such a heavy Southern accent as he did today during that presser, because I almost had to do a double take. Is that really Lovie Smith talking? Or was there someone talking for him? So it was kind of surprising to hear how heavy his accent was. But obviously he's going to say the right things. And it's kind of ironic where he said, as the former head coach said, there's 32 jobs out there, for you to be picked for as far as a head coach. And so to me, it wasn't one of those pressers that you heard that a coach would have saying, like, I'm pretty sure the one from Doug Peterson and will probably end up being a whole lot better when it comes down to it, when they get ready to introduce him. But it wasn't convincing enough. It almost felt like, yes, we're rebuilding. We're hoping the fan base will stay there. And if you listen to their local Houston radio, you can hear how frustrated the fans were, even like during the Indy Kalu show and then after with Matt from 1 to 3. But you can hear the frustration in the voices of everyone down there, because it just seems like they kind of like threw in the towel. I'm like, all right, we'll just give Lovie a shot here. And the same way with the GM, the confidence level for me for the Texans is not where it was just a few short years ago. So I don't know, and I don't understand the fallout, what's going to happen from there. Obviously, there was no mention whatsoever of Deshaun Watson. So I think that ship may have sailed. And now it comes down to, is he going to trade him? What's he planning on doing? Is he planning on cutting him? So there's a lot, other than just Lovie Smith being a head coach, there's a lot of disarray in Houston. And I would love to know how the actual players feel about this whole debacle, the way it went down, because there's a lot of things that are going on for the Houston Texans that are just not, to me, not copacetic. I don't know if you got, again, the same mentality or not, but there's a lot to be fixed down there in Houston.
Yeah, and now they're wasting money. I mean, they're paying David Culley and Lovie Smith this year to coach a football team while David Culley sits on a beach somewhere. So I don't know the long-term plan. If they can trade Deshaun Watson and bring back a war chest of draft picks, 3 first-rounders potentially, if not just 2, like that sets them up in a better position. But after that, I mean, the O-line's bad, the quarterback's bad, the receivers are bad, the defense is bad. Like we're talking full-scale, tear it down, rebuild, and that's coming off back-to-back seasons where they were already bad in the first place.
Yeah.
I want to get back here to before we keep talking football here, but Joey B, other than his shenanigans, but he said, Dave, thoughts on the Colorado Rockies here in Denver? Cellar dweller once again?
Yeah, Joey, unfortunately, I think so. I think they're trending towards a rebuild themselves. I mean, they traded Nolan Arenado last offseason. They're to lose Trevor Story this offseason. I mean, those are the 2 best players there for a while. Tough to be competitive losing, that caliber of talent in back-to-back off seasons.
So Dave, let's get right back in a little football here. Where does this 2022 off season go for the Eagles? Any predictions? Any inside info?
Yeah, the biggest conversation is going to be at quarterback. I mean, we've heard a lot of talk about Jalen Hurts potentially being the guy. I think based on some of the reports I've read, I don't know if Howie Roseman is there, which sounds crazy considering, how aggressively he looked to move Carson Wentz to make room for Jalen Hurts. And by all accounts and measures, Jalen had a pretty good first year as a starting quarterback. They made the playoffs. They won 9 games. That was all good and swell. With that said, Russell Wilson's likely to be traded. Aaron Rodgers is likely to be traded. We already talked about Deshaun Watson. Like, there's a market for some seriously good quarterback talent. There's multiple quarterbacks who are likely to be taken in the first round between Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell. Howie Roseman's never been one to sit around and just be content at the quarterback position. So if he decides he wants to go aggressive and get one of those guys, the timeline for this Eagles team completely changes. You're then looking at a situation where they're trying to win as soon as possible with a veteran quarterback. If they decide to stick with Jalen Hurts, I think you'll see a more stereotypical conservative type rebuild where it's more about, okay, bring some talent in on the defense, continuing to pump bodies into the offensive line. So it's just really kind of a wait and see type of thing because the team can go in 2 completely different directions based on what they do at quarterback.
Well, if there's anybody that would know how aggressive or how he wants to do it, it'd be Fuji.
Yeah.
That's a story for another time. Sean Kilrain says, would you guys like to see the 2 worst teams play for their first round pick rather than the lousy Pro Bowl that was on this past Sunday?
Yes.
Hey, that's not a bad idea.
I would rather see 2 bad college football teams play than seeing the Pro Bowl. That was bad. That was awful.
Yeah.
What's the Pro Bowl?
Well, the Pro Bowl's been terrible for years.
It's the Flag Football Bowl.
That's what it is. That's what a lot of comments were the same exact thing. And some of it, so there was some frustration, I guess, from some of the players because, of course, this season was the first time in NFL history, obviously, in a while, should I say, the season not only ended in an odd week, but also the extra game added at the end of the season. So a lot of players were saying that they attended a Pro Bowl because they were chosen to go there. But as far as playing the Pro Bowl, there wasn't much interest because their thing was they added an additional week. They already got beat up as much as they did throughout the regular season. And so they were looking for just their time there to get together with the fans and everything else and basically go home from there. If that's the case, and that's Sean, the question he had there, which is a good question, but I heard that from somebody else too. I think it might have been one of my coworkers at work have thought about something like that as well. But my thing is that if it's going to come down to that, then why bother having a Pro Bowl? Have your nominees in there. If the guys don't want to show up and play, I mean, I know they do, obviously, the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday have a couple of different events that end up doing skills challenge, the walk of the runway, and something else end up happening there as well. But if that's the case, then if instead of playing the actual Pro Bowl, then just make it a bunch of goofy events, because if it's going to come down to the point where we're not tackling, we're not hitting, it's just nonsense, then why even bother having it? I mean, obviously Vegas loved it because not only did they have the Pro Bowl there that weekend, they also had the NHL All-Star Game. So it was a great weekend overall for Vegas. So talk about a money-making weekend. That was a bigger one that was there. So I'm just wondering, what else could they possibly do? I'm going to take away Dave's camera there for a second because it looks like it froze. No, there it is. He's back.
Get the lingerie leg out there. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
put that out there. That'll wake up a lot of eyes.
Well, that it would be. But Dave, I'd love to get your take though, as far as when a Pro Bowl is it at this point, has it become just an absolute joke?
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, my job is to watch NFL, and I didn't watch it. I don't love the idea of like the number 1 overall pick battle, because let's say you're the starting quarterback for one of those teams. Like, what is your incentive to win that game so that your team can draft your replacement? With that said, I think the 2 ideas I would like to see with the Pro Bowl, if they're going to keep it around, is number 1, make it mandatory. I think the Pro Bowl is a lot more fun if Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and all those guys are actually there competing. Or number 2, just do the skills event, Angel, like you said, where it's, do some fun little drills, see who can run the fastest, see who can throw the farthest, see who the most accurate quarterback is, because that's at least fun, and it's a little more kind of lighthearted as opposed to a 2-hand touch game where nobody's trying and there's a collective 10 turnovers.
Yeah.
Well, they back in the day, if you watch, on ESPN, they used to have like the quarterback skills competition. where, they would hit the moving bullseyes. I used to love that stuff, but I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was amazing. Just, hitting the targets and just all that old school stuff that they should bring back. Why not?
Well, even in the NHL All-Star Game and NBA All-Star Game, let's face it, there's no defense whatsoever in either of those All-Star games. But the fact that, the NFL All-Star Game, Pro Bowl, there's no defense at all, but it's more shown in the NFL game because that's what everything is based on, hitting, preventing from scoring, where in NBA and the NHL, fans want to see the scoring and whatnot, and see the stars score and slam dunk and whatever else. The NFL Pro Bowl game, All-Star game, is predicated on the hitting. People want to see hitting and interceptions and whatnot. So there's hardly any of that going on in the NFL Pro Bowl All-Star game.
No, everybody wants to see offense anyway in all the leagues. In base, the All-Star game in baseball, it's the long ball, and everything else. They want to see everybody either dunk. In the NBA, they want to run the score up in football. It's what it just seems like sports is pretty much predicated on now.
Well, that's why I think the baseball All-Star game is the best All-Star game that's out there, because it's not predicated on individual or hitting or whatever else. It's pitcher versus batter. Hit the ball, and then the defense needs to catch it or whatever else like that. So that's why I think, in my opinion, Major League Baseball All-Star Game is the best of the All-Star games.
Hey, David, I actually I'll have a question for you with this. We're talking about All-Star games here. MLB had a great thing, I felt like, with the incentive of having home field advantage. Obviously, it didn't affect everybody with the home field advantage, but I thought that made the All-Star game more meaningful. Do you think? Obviously, with the NFL, you can't really have much of a home field advantage with it being a neutral site game, but maybe having some sort of an incentive or something like is there anything that any of these All-Star games outside of, maybe like what the MLB did with the, whoever wins has home field advantage win the World Series. Is there some way to have like an incentive or something for these All-Star games when the NFL or with the NFL, NHL, NBA?
Yeah, Dylan, that's a really good point. And I can't say I have an idea off the top of my head, but like the MLB All-Star game, there was certainly a sense of pride once upon a time where the NL wanted to beat the AL and vice versa. And I think you look at the Pro Bowl, the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game, some of these other leagues, there's very little pride. Nobody cares. They're just going there for fun. I think some of the events are still cool, like the dunk contest in the NBA, the 3-point contest. These are really good. But finding a way to incentivize the big game, the big All-Star game, the big Pro Bowl game, whatever the case is, so that there's an element of pride to where it's the one conference actually wants to beat the other conference. Dylan, I think that's a really good point. Go throw it at Goodell and see what he says, because I'm amazed no one's come up with a solution there after decades of football.
Isn't it impossible though to incentivize the Pro Bowl, because the Super Bowl game per se is already scheduled like 5-10 years down the road?
Yeah, it would certainly have to be non-home field related, because you're right. The arenas are bidding mass amounts for the rights to the Super Bowl, but some sort of incentive. I don't know what the incentive is right now. We'll all have to come together and brainstorm at some point. But something just to add a little bit of pride towards the game, to where people actually play defense.
No, that's true. And to me, it's become an absolute joke. First of all, and I've said this to Dylan beforehand too. I didn't like where I tuned away from the All-Star game was when they decided to make it like whoever wins home field advantage. I like the old-fashioned way, the way it was before. The way it is right now is that the team with the better records obviously are the ones going to decide who's going to play, at home. Because to me, it was the same silly nonsense. When it comes to the All-Star game, I like everything that leads up to it, and it's the same way. I think the All-Star game, you can also make that fun. At this point, if Major League Baseball continues this lockout, they won't have to worry about people showing up at the All-Star game, because it's already become abysmal to where people are talking about that the games are too long. They need to do something about it. They were supposed to add that 20-second clock. That never was added in there. So there's still time that ended up putting in between pitchers and between pitching warm-ups. So to me, there's so many adjustments both on the NFL side And obviously on the Major League Baseball side, it needs to be done. I know a couple of comments that were up there as well as far as when it came to Alvin Kamara. And it's kind of funny how nothing's been mentioned since the weekend about when it comes to Alvin Kamara. But, once again, these guys, I don't know what it is with this offseason in the NFL. Unfortunately, with the NFL offseason, it seems like we've already gotten, 8 to 9 players already in hot water. And the offseason not even here yet because we still have to get through Super Bowl Sunday. So I don't understand exactly what the deal is with some of these NFL players, but I don't think some of these guys know how good they have it versus the regular man who's out here, and woman for that matter, to make barely ends meet, and you were gifted with the talent to go out there and play, and you do the dumbest, silliest things to make your career either put on hold or you get put on notice. And if anybody happened to watch, by the way, that Aaron Hernandez, or what was it there on Netflix, that whole situation, that saga, that was sinful what happened there. But eventually his family, I guess, donated his brain to CT to see exactly what's going on over there. So these guys, I really don't understand how in the world do you screw up so bad? I mean, you already have all the light and all the attention you want during the season, but then you go to an event that's supposed to be a fun weekend and you get yourself into hot water, especially down there in Vegas where they take things serious. It's not like there's other places where you go to when you get caught up in Vegas, you can get caught up in Vegas really bad. So we'll see what happens with Alvin Kamara. Sean comes back here, who says, from Jason Kelsey, this would have been awesome. One of the biggest regrets I have, and we talked about this as a team. After Super Bowl, you can't be mad, right? It's awesome. You're at the Super Bowl party. You're celebrating with your friends and teammates, friends and family. I really wish after the Super Bowl, we would have a jet ready to go, gotten on that thing, and gotten right back on the Broad Street. I think that would have been just spectacular to celebrate it that way. Seeing those pictures, and he'll probably finish up his comment later on. But as far as when it comes down to, obviously, the 4 years ago, the celebration that we had in Philadelphia was massive. I hope to do it again in my lifetime. Like I said, it was so much fun, and I'm glad that I was home for that before I moved down here to Tampa. And then ever since moving down here to Tampa, it seems like all the championships came up this way or down this way. So we'll see what's going to happen with Tampa Bay, because there's going to be a lot of talk. And speaking of, Kyler Murray apparently now, Vegas, I think, put 5-1 odds that he would end up in Tampa as their starting quarterback. I don't see it. I don't think Arizona lets him go. But the way Kyler Murray is handling himself, I think to me is pretty much childish, because he took away everything from Arizona, took away his social media, pretty much didn't want to be disturbed by his own teammates who reached out to him over the weekend. So is the immaturity factor kicking in, David, for Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's tough to tell because players do weird things on Instagram and social media. Like, nobody really knows what the root cause is there. I think with Arizona, they certainly have to change something. They've run a few years with this head coach, GM, quarterback trio, and I think at some point you have to make a change. And if they want to move off Kyler Murray, by all means, put him on the trade market. You'll certainly get at least a first-round pick back in return. I think Cliff Kingsbury, firing him and moving forward with a different coach would make more sense to me. Granted, the head coaching cycle is complete. All the good candidates have been scooped up. So to me, it looks like they're running it back, which maybe is what Kyler is upset about. I don't know if the team is going to make a drastic decision one way or the other, but it's certainly a situation that could boil into next season if all three parties, the GM, head coach, and quarterback, aren't on the same page in Arizona.
Hey, sorry, Fuji. I just have a quick question for you, David. Obviously, Sunday, it's a big day, Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously, we got the Bengals and the Rams. I got to ask you, with Burrow coming off that big injury last year, a lot of people didn't expect him maybe even to play until middle of the season. This year, he came back early. Is Burrow comeback player of the year? I mean, what an incredible season he had. I know he had a great season to start off last year, but to come back from an injury and lead your team to the Super Bowl, I mean, how can you not be comeback player of the year for the NFL?
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty safe bet at this point. He's been spectacular coming off an ACL tear, and really this is his first full season starting in the NFL. Spectacular stuff. If he goes ahead and wins the Super Bowl, you might as well print the award for him right there and then. But yeah, really special stuff from him. I see no reason why he wouldn't win comeback player of the year. There's no one else really close to that conversation. Dak Prescott might get a little bit of consideration, but again, Joe Burrow, much, much better season.
Dave, as far as the Super Bowl, who are you liking this week?
I'm going with Cincy. Granted, I didn't pick them to make the Super Bowl. I had Tampa Bay, Kansas City was my prediction heading into the postseason. But I think you look at the Bengals, you look at what Burrow's doing. They have a little bit of like Eagles 2017 magic going to them. So they're certainly riding hot. I think Burrow's the better quarterback than Stafford. I think Jamar Chase is a complete maniac on the football field. So I'm going with the red hot Bengals on this one.
I think so as well. And I think Joey Burrow, and I originally, when I mentioned this last week, and I mentioned as Joey Burrow 2.0, I mean that I'd hope that the success and everything else would happen with Johnny Manziel. Would do the same thing with Burrow. I'm hoping that he stays humble the way he's been. I know he's been getting a lot of talk this week and all about his swag and everything else. I just hope he stays humble, even if he wins the Super Bowl, because at this point, it's just getting a lot of press that sometimes changes the outcome of the game. So I'm hoping to see exactly what's going to happen here for the Super Bowl this Sunday. But the one final thing, I guess, with Gannon now going back to Philly, is it good for the Eagles to be looking at Gannon being the defensive coordinator once again, or it should be another route that the Eagles are looking for? Because Gannon, to me, it seems like, as I called in down to Sports Talk 790 on the In the Trenches, to me, Gannon was not the right hire for the head coaching staff when it comes down to the Houston Texans. And to me, he really also should not be the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'd like to get your thought here, Dave, on as far as on Gannon.
Yeah, and a lot of people share that sentiment, Angel, about how he was kind of underwhelming his first year in Philadelphia. The defense, especially against good quarterbacks, wasn't impressive. I mean, that final game in Tampa Bay was frankly embarrassing. With that said, I do think ultimately it's a good thing. I want to see what Gannon does in year 2. I want to see what he does with a better defensive line, with better linebackers, assuming the Eagles are going to improve the defense this offseason through the draft and through free agency. I think it's worth noting that several teams interviewed Gannon for their head coach position this offseason. And if everyone around the NFL loves him that much, clearly he's doing something right. Do I think he's a better defensive coordinator than a Vic Fangio or Brian Flores or any of the candidates out there right now? Absolutely not. But I think having a level of contingency, a level of consistency with the defense, letting these younger guys like a Josh Sweat, for example, like an Avonte Maddox, kind of learn one system for the meantime, I do think that's important.
Yeah.
I know today the Giants signed Wink Martindale to be their defensive coordinator, who was with the Ravens for a long time. So, he had some nice defenses down in Baltimore with the Ravens. So I think that was a good pickup for the Giants anyway.
I was surprised that the Ravens let him go.
I know they fired him about a week and a half ago, and there's a couple teams out there were looking at him, but I guess the Giants swooped right in and picked them up. So kudos to them. I mean, Wink Martindale being one of the better defensive coordinators in the game of football.
Yeah, the Ravens defense has always been good, except for this past year where their pass defense wasn't necessarily that great. But I was surprised that they let him go.
Yeah.
Hey, David, I got a question real quick. More of a lighthearted question here. Being an Orlando Magic fan, what are the chances that we're going to win the NBA championship in 2022? Or is Cole Anthony winning the dunk contest this year more likely to happen?
Probably Cole Anthony winning the dunk contest. I think with that said, Orlando was doing some sneaky nice things last offseason. They got railed by the injury bug. So I'm not all the way out on Orlando, but I don't think 2022 is going to be their year.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't think so either. But listen, Dave, thank you again for coming on tonight. We don't want to keep you any longer because we know you have a lot of work coming up here with the NFL, especially with it being Super Bowl week for you guys, the media week. So we do appreciate you coming back on with us. It's good to see you. Obviously, the last time we saw you were in Philly, now being out here in Texas. So we appreciate everything you've done. Also,
Thanks,
for your work with the Phillies as far as the podcast. And I want everyone to know exactly how they can find you and your great content.
Yeah, first and foremost, again, fellas, thanks so much for bringing me on. Dylan, Chipper, it was great to meet you guys. I absolutely love the new setup of the show. You guys are doing fantastic. Regarding the Phillies podcast, it's going to be at Bullpen Blues Pod on Twitter. If you head to the Twitter page, I'll have all the links to the Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify there. We are recording a new episode this upcoming Saturday, so definitely tune in if you're starving for some baseball content.
Yeah, listen, we appreciate it. I of course, I started listening because I'm subscribed. So every time you drop a new episode, I get a notification for it. So I still listen to it. Listen, I read, I listen, even though I may not reach out a whole bunch, but I still pay attention to what's going on because we never forget the folks that have been on with us to help us to be successful. So we do appreciate it. So for everyone else, we will see everyone on Thursday. I see one more comment coming in before we start talking about our sponsors here at the end of the show. Rick says Giants better than the Eagles. I guess the dispensary is open for business. Yeah, well, that's because Joey B there. He's got to chime in with his Giants. So, but listen, thanks to everyone who tuned in tonight. Once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors because without them, well, we don't have our show. So thank you first and foremost out there at Tampa Joe's at 9316 Anderson Road in beautiful Tampa, Florida. A hop, skip, and a jump from the airport. So if you guys are flying in for any event down here in Tampa, including possibly, hopefully, spring training season, stop by Tampa Joe's and look at their menu at tampajoes.com. View all the specials they may have so you can find out exactly what to get before you arrive down there. And PJ and the other folks that are down there, along with Mike Goodwin, Ron, the GM, or Rob, excuse me, not Ron. Thanks for everything, what you do down there. We do greatly appreciate it, along with our friendly guy that we endear and hope to do the best with LGDirect.net. Larry Gilman, taking care of business with the Larry Gilman here studios down in Tampa. He's also, you can reach out to him in Philly. Also down here in Tampa, you guys can see the toll-free number up there at 855-777-3863, 855-777-3863 for all your business sales solution needs. Go to LGDirect.net. Also a special mention here to our special media partner, Big Sarge. Check out BigSargeSports.com, and that's with a Z, Big Sarge Sports Talk. You guys can listen into the question he had today for the newest head coach for the Houston Texans, along with all the great content that he has. And again, it's all through BroadStreetSouth.com, BroadSTSouth.com. Also with Chipper over at Steel City Renegades. We do appreciate the guys always coming on. Chipper, the gang, you can hear him during the regular season on Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. And it's always a great time over there. So thanks for Chipper coming on again with PhillySportsTrips.com. Vince Rizzuto, President and CEO of Philly Sports Trips. You guys are looking to travel out anywhere for a basketball, baseball, now a golf event, and obviously football is over. But when football comes back, always reach out to PhillySportsTrips.com. And if I didn't miss anyone else, hopefully that's the last person I talk about. Also, thank you to Eagles Mania for always sharing our content out there. We are the official podcast for Eagles Mania. You guys can reach out to them on Facebook, again, on BroadStreetSouth.com. And let's not forget also with Caesars Entertainment here through Super Draft Pro, our strategic partnership with them. So everyone, please look out on BroadStreetSouth.com. Take a look on the link on the top right-hand corner. You can sign up for free. You can pick an elite package that's over there. And you just have fun, as I've been doing for the past couple of nights here, trying it out to make sure that everything works out perfectly the way it's supposed to. So, again, lots going on. We'll have on Thursday night a former Sixers player in Fuji, if you want to mention exactly who we have on Thursday night.
Jermaine Jones will be coming on talking some post-trade talk on Thursday. Everybody tune in, dive into some Sixers talk with Jermaine Jones, and everybody tune in. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. You know, Dave, thank you for coming on. Chipper, Dylan, I know it's been a while. I know you've been sulking in that Tampa Bay Bucks sorrows and all that good stuff.
That's right. So,
thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on again. Dave, nice meeting you. Dylan, nice meeting you.
No problem. So for Chipper, for Dylan, Fuji, and for my beautiful producer over there in Studio B, Debbie in the next room, we thank everyone for tuning in. I do see one quick comment coming in at the very end. Sean, thank you so much. Along
Thanks
with
for tuning
Rick,
in,
Joey
Sean,
B.
as always.
Yep, for tuning in. We do appreciate it. We will see everyone Thursday night at 8 p.m. Everyone have a great night.